All right, welcome back. It's Monday, so let's talk about money, right? Now, finance is a very important part of us as humans. Now, the ability to manage it well is, of course, the sure path to financial freedom. Now, of course, when it comes to business, managing your cost is also very important. Now, Sharif Gbadamosi is here again to give us pointers about how to manage your finances. So as a small business, what are the things that you need to consider first when you want to cut back?
One of the things that happens with a lot of businesses when they get into those jams, in actual fact, I would tell you from the onset, those jams were inevitable because they could have been foresight, they could have been forecast before it actually happened. With businesses, as we always talk about planning, you can never overemphasize planning. These businesses are supposed to be able to forecast these kind of occurrences that happen. There are obviously some hidden costs as well involved in business. But what tends to happen in such situations, unfortunately, is either the quality goes because they're trying to cut corners, or maybe their staff suffer for it. You know, but normally on most occasions, proprietors never really suffer as much as other areas of the businesses.
I like the fact that you're talking about quality because that's also what you see with a lot of big businesses as well. So why do they go after quality instead of other areas?
Well, because then they don't have a lot to work with in some cases. What tends to happen with a lot of these businesses is when you start a business, as I said to you, they're hidden costs. They're the explicit costs that we always deal with. Like, for instance, it could be your rents, it could be obviously your raw materials, whatever value addition that you put into it. It could be the personnel that you hire and things like that. But what happens with a lot of these businesses is that they actually do not plan for the hidden costs. There are a lot of them in society. And how you start your business is how you mean to continue. Like, for instance, if I get a premises, a lot of businesses that want to start, when I speak to a lot of SMEs, startups, they always say, oh, I'm interested in, I want to get a property, I want to get somewhere, because they feel that the aesthetics of having a place an office is very important for their businesses. But what you find is that a lot of businesses actually starting from their homes do thrive over the time. But because there are a lot of hidden costs involved in these
sometimes
things.
It could be very challenging because when you're thinking about a lot of people who I've spoken to, when they start their business from home, it doesn't really feel the same. You know, the time you wake up, because you're still in the house, you have that, okay, I'm still in the house mentality, and a lot of distractions in the house as well, especially maybe if you're a woman.
And you have kids.
And you have kids. Okay, so the kids are off to school, and there's always something to do. You have to clean this, there's something else you remember.
Well, it does depend on what you do. I understand those distractions, but really, you got to ask yourself the question, am I in business or am I in business? If you are in business, whether you like it or not, you would make it work. Because this is something that is very important to you and you have a passion for it anyway. So I can understand those distractions. We can talk about those things from now to kingdom come. But the truth about it is that if you're in business, you should be in business regardless of wherever you are. I mean, you have to really, really bite the bullet and start your business from wherever you can, rather than wait for this big break and big money to come before we actually start the enterprise.
So avoid rent if you can.
If you can, in the beginning, yes, avoid rent. It depends on what kind of business you're doing. Now, some businesses require rent. Some businesses require storage space. So obviously, those would have planned in the beginning to have that kind of capital inbuilt to be able to get these storage spaces. But for instance, if you're running the service industry, you don't necessarily have to start with the premises to start with. That premise can come later on as you're building your profits and use that to be able to expand on your enterprise. But in the beginning, it depends on what business you're actually doing.
So let's talk about staff then as a cost area. So you're thinking about starting a business, you're going to require maybe 3 or 4 people to kick off to ensure that your production or whatever it is that you're doing, you're productive enough to be able to deliver to clients. Do you have to hire all the staff you need at the same time, or do you phase it?
Not necessarily. You can phase it. You have to hire the most important competencies that you require at that point in time. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, I actually believe that there are certain aspects of that business you can carry the weight yourself. It's not about hiring people and saying, I am Oga. And everybody has to do everything and I just sit down and supervise. No, you also have to get involved. So as best as possible, you can actually minimize your cost exposure in terms of hiring people. When you hire people, you also have to think about making them happy. And making them happy also translates directly also into your quality. The quality of service, the quality of your product. If it is you're producing something, all that would work into it. So you really have to think about all that rather than just saying, I'm hiring someone, maybe I'll just pay them 30 or 40,000. and hopefully everything will work well.
And hopefully they stay.
Yeah, hopefully they stay. Businesses are not built on hope. They're built on solid planning and intention to say, okay, this is what I have to do, and this is how much it will cost to actually get that done. So from the onset, they have to make sure that their people are taken care of, in which case, when you're doing your budgets or doing your financial forecast, you're already forecasting the fact that you have to pay this person every month. You're forecasting the fact that you probably have to pay a pension for them and pay their income tax for them and make those remittances to the government.
Yeah.
So all these things have to be worked in, you know, and at no point, so would you say, oh, I have to remove this or I have to remove that? Because there's some companies at the moment that are owing pensions, there are companies that are not even remitting the taxes, and some companies are not even disclosing the fact that they're actually hiring people, or some companies hiring people on contract.
Right,
so that they don't have to pay them all these little benefits that I tried to do. But you see, it hurts these people. And when it hurts these people, what tends to happen is their loyalty goes down and you're firefighting and really trying
but
to
there's
keep
some people though, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the contract staff thing, because there's some people who say, in order to cut costs from your business, and a lot of people are doing it now, even the big businesses as well,
absolutely,
oil companies, banks.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
In order to cut costs, hire a contract staff that you don't have to pay pension, you don't have to pay their taxes for them and all of that, and just pay them what you owe them, which is, okay, fixed contract, 1 million naira for 3 months, and then you just pay that money. I don't owe you anything.
Many businesses actually do that at the moment. I can understand why they're doing it, because the wage bills can tend to be very high, especially when you're hiring experts or your business involves some kind of expert use of experts and all that. But you see, the more experts the higher the person is in terms of competencies, the more you have to pay them. And more people are actually demanding the security that comes from, I want a full-time job, I want a salary, I want a pension,
I want healthcare.
I want my bonuses at the end of the year, and things like that. So, and I don't know, the government I think is working on new initiatives to be able to introduce, even for contract staff, some kind of rights. The companies would have to pay to them, because so that they don't get up that easily, because we also have to think about the families involved with these people.
All right, let's talk about energy costs, because that's one of the biggest challenges for Nigerian entrepreneurs. Power, you know, you're either paying NEPA bills or PACN bills, or you're doing your generator and all of that. So that's also a big challenge and a big cost area. Is there any way to cut costs in that particular area for generators and
again, it depends on what your business is, and it depends on what if, for instance, your business is a salon, it's very difficult because you have to have power there when your clients come in. You tend to find some salons, for instance, that shut down the generator when there are no clients in. That's fantastic. That's good. You can keep on doing that, but once a client comes in, you have to create that ambience and that wonderful environment. So I said it depends on what the business is. If it's a consultancy, if it's a restaurant, if it's something that involves customers being on the premises to actually render your services to them, then that's a little bit difficult. But if it's just an office space, and most of the time you're the only person that is there, you can actually decide, okay, you know, I'm just going to, instead of using an air conditioner, I'm going to use a fan for now. You can deny yourself some creature comforts as an entrepreneur. Saying that, I'm also going to go to the fact that some businesses, for instance, buying in the car very early or buying the luxury items within the office very early and things like that, it's not necessary in the beginning.
At the beginning,
It's really not necessary. I mean, eventually we will get there where you're able to do those things. But what you find a lot of people is that they make a little bit of profits and they get crazy. And they're like, oh, or maybe they score one massive contract and they just think, wow, I have arrived. I can buy that Honda or I can buy that G-Wagon, you know, because I've always dreamed about it. What you find with a lot of people is that the lack of discipline that they have in their own personal finance, as an entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, you end up translating it into your business. Wow. And it does affect your business.
Wow. Thanks so much, Sheriff Gbadamosi.